So I use that as a metaphor. And if, in fact, we continue to keep opportunity open to everybody, then, yes, we're going to have a woman president. We're going to have a Latino president, and we'll have a Jewish president, a Hindu president. Who knows who we're going to have? I suspect we'll have a whole bunch of mixed up presidents at some point that nobody really knows what to call them. And that's fine. But what do I worry about? I obviously spent a lot of time on this, April, at my farewell address on Tuesday. So I won't go through the whole list. I worry about inequality, because I think that if we are not investing in making sure everybody plays a role in this economy, the economy will not grow as fast. And I think it will also lead to further and further separation between us as Americans, not just along racial lines. There are a whole bunch of folks who voted for the president-elect because they feel forgotten and disenfranchised. They feel as if they're being looked down on. They feel as if their kids aren't going to have the same opportunities as they did. And you don't want to have an America in which a very small sliver of people are doing really well and everybody else is fighting for scraps, as I said last week. Because that's oftentimes when racial divisions get magnified, because people think well, the only way I'm going to get ahead is if I make sure somebody else gets less. Somebody who doesn't look like me or doesn't worship at the same place I do. That's not a good recipe for our democracy. I worry about, as I said in response to a previous question, making sure that the basic machinery of our democracy works better. We are the only country in the advanced world that makes it harder to vote rather than easier. And that dates back. There's an ugly history to that we should not be shy about talking about. Question: voting rights? President Obama: yes, I'm talking about voting rights. The reason that we are the only country among advanced democracies that makes it? Harder to vote is it traces directly back to Jim Crow and the legacy of slavery. And it became sort of acceptable to restrict the franchise. And that's not. Who we are. That shouldn't be who we are. That's not when America works best. So I hope that people pay a lot of attention to making sure that everybody has a chance to vote. Make it easier, not harder. This whole notion of election of voting fraud. This is something that has constantly been disproved. This is fake news. The notion that there are a whole bunch of people out there who are going out there and are not eligible to vote and want to vote. We have the opposite problem. We have a whole bunch of people who are eligible to vote who don't vote. And so the idea that we'd put in place a whole bunch of barriers to people voting doesn't make sense. And then, as I've said before, political gerrymandering that makes your vote matter less because politicians have Decided you live in a district where everybody votes the same way you do so that these aren't competitive races. And we get 90% Democratic districts, 90% Republican districts. That's bad for our democracy, too. I worry about that. I think it is very important for us to make sure that our criminal justice system is fair and just. But I also think it's also very important to make sure that it is not politicized. That it maintains an integrity that is outside of partisan politics at every level. I think at some point we're going to have to spend, and this will require some action by the Supreme Court. We have to re-examine just the flood of endless money that goes into our politics, which I think is very unhealthy. So there are a whole bunch of things I worry about there. And as I said in my speech on Tuesday, we got more work to do on race. It is simply not true that things have gotten worse. They haven't. Things are getting better. And I have more confidence on racial issues in the next generation than I do in our generation or the previous generation. I think kids are smarter about it. They're more tolerant. They are more inclusive by instinct than we are. And hopefully my presidency maybe help that along a little bit. But, you know, when we feel stress, when we feel pressure, when we're just fed information that encourages some of our worst instincts. We tend to fall back into some of the old racial fears and racial divisions and racial stereotypes. And it's very hard for us to break out of those, and to listen. and to think about people as people, and to imagine being in that person's shoes. And by the way, it's no longer a black and white issue alone. You got Hispanic folks, and you got Asian folks, and this is not just the same old battles. We've got this stew that's bubbling up of people from everywhere. And we're going to have to make sure that we, in our own lives, in our own families and workplaces, do a better job of treating everybody with basic respect. And understanding that not everybody starts off in the same situation. And imagining what would it be like if you were born in an inner city and had no job prospects anywhere within a 20-mile radius. Or how does it feel being born in some rural county where there's no job opportunities? In a 20-mile radius and seeing those two things as connected as opposed to separate. So we got work to do. But, overall, I think on this front, the trend lines ultimately, I think, will be good. Christy Parsons. And Christy, you are going to get the last question. Question, oh, no. President Obama, Christy is I've been knowing her since Springfield, Illinois. When I was a state senator, she listened to what I had to say. So the least I can do is give her the last question as President of the United States. Go on. Question, 217 numbers still work. President Obama, there you go. Go ahead. Question, well, thank you, Mr. President. It has been an honor. President Obama, thank you. Question, and I have a personal question for you, because I know how much you like this. The First Lady puts the stakes of the 2016 election in very personal terms in a speech that resonated across the country. And she really spoke the concerns of a lot of women, LGBT folks, people of color, many others. And so I wonder now how you and the First Lady are talking to your daughters about. The meaning of this election and how you interpret it for yourself and for them. President Obama, you know, every parent brags on their daughters or their sons. If your mom and dad don't brag on you, you know you got problems. But, man, my daughters are something. And they just surprise and enchant and impress me more and more every single day as they grow up. And so these days, when we talk as parent to child, but also we learn from them. And I think it was really interesting to see how Malia and Sasha reacted. They were disappointed. They paid attention to what their mom said during the campaign and believed it. Because it's consistent with what we've tried to teach them in our household. And what I've tried to model as a father with their mom, and what we've asked them to expect from future boyfriends or spouses. But what we've also tried to teach them is resilience, and we've tried to teach them hope. And that the only thing that is the end of the world is the end of the world. And so you get knocked down, you get up, brush yourself off, and you get back to work. And that tended to be their attitude. I think neither of them intend to pursue a future of politics, and in that, too, I think their mother's influence shows. But both of them have grown up in an environment where I think they could not help but be patriotic. To love this country deeply, to see that it's flawed but see that they have responsibilities to fix it. And that they need to be active citizens. And they have to be in a position to talk to their friends and their teachers and their future co-workers in ways that try to shed some light as opposed to just generate a lot of sound and fury. And I expect that's what they're going to do. They don't mope. And what I really am proud of them, what makes me proudest about them is that they also don't get cynical about it. They have not assumed because their side didn't win. Or because some of the values that they care about don't seem as if they were vindicated. That automatically America has somehow rejected them or rejected their values. I don't think they feel that way. I think that they have, in part through osmosis, in part through dinner time conversations. Appreciated the fact that this is a big, complicated country. And democracy is messy and it doesn't always work exactly the way you might want, it doesn't guarantee certain outcomes. But if you're engaged and you're involved, then there are a lot more good people than bad in this country. And there's a core decency to this country, and that they got to be a part of lifting that up.